Hello everyone, my name is Anishka and today I will be presenting just a little presentation regarding global businesses versus domestic businesses. So first we will be going over what a global business is, what a domestic business is first, to sort of understand the advantages, disadvantages, and the supply chain that we'll be talking about later. So first, to get started, a global business is basically just a business. It's just a business, which actually refers to the commercial activities that the business participates in, and it usually involves the exchange of goods, services, technology across the nation's borders. So that's the biggest thing. Global business is something that sells its products or information, knowledge beyond. It goes beyond its country's borders. There's a lot of reasons why they might do this, and we'll go into the advantages of that later. So next we have domestic businesses, and domestic businesses are basically just quite the opposite. They are businesses that operate solely within the boundary or the borders of a single country. For example, so Princeton Business Challenge is located in America, for example. And an example of a business that's just domestic to America could be, for example, crumble cookies. That's something that if you go out of America, you're not going to find something like that. Similarly, a business that is a global business could be something like Amazon or something like McDonald's, because if you go outside America's borders, you will find these companies outside of America. So now we're going to get into some of the advantages and disadvantages of global business. So first, one of the biggest advantages is that if you are running a global business, you are going to have access to new markets, obviously. You're not just operating within your own country anymore, you're operating within multiple countries. So you're going to have access to these other countries' technologies, their resources, their innovations. So just in all, you're going to have so many more resources you can use and so many new markets that it will really help your business fly high. Next, we have increased innovation. This sort of tags in with the first one. You're going to have a lot of new resources and just a lot of new things that you can be using if you are running a global business. So with increased innovation, you're not only getting new resources, but you're getting exposed to all these different cultures, these ideas, these ways of solving problems. You're gonna have so many more like creative ways to solve a problem other than just your own perspective. And this can help a lot when you sometimes hit a wall with your business or you don't know what to do. Another advantage is diversification of risk. And what that basically means is when you have a global business, when your company is operating in multiple countries, it's going to reduce its dependency on the economy of just one country. So like for example, if you have a company in America and if America happens to face a recession, the company can still earn money from the other markets that it is working in. It's not just like, oh, since it's in, just because like it operates one part of it in America, the whole country's gonna go down. The whole market's gonna go down. No, that's wrong, because your business is going to be operating in a lot more countries, sort of spreading out the risk, and it's making the business more stable and less vulnerable. Next, we have another advantage is the talent. It's a talent pool expansion. And what that means is when a business does decide to go global, it can hire people from so many different countries instead of just relying on workers in its home country. And what this does is it gives the business a much larger and much more diverse talent pool because all these people have different skills, different experiences, different perspectives, and it can often lead to better problem solving, more creativity, and stronger innovation. However, to global business, there are some disadvantages. For example, you have culture and language barriers. If you're going global and you're going global in a country, for example, that may not speak the same language as you, obviously it's going to be a lot harder to communicate, and it's going to be a lot harder to be able to solve problems with that company, to try to come up with strategies to help your company. It's just going to be a lot harder. Next are you're going to have complex supply chains because global, a lot of the time you will be going overseas. You're going to have to figure out the cargo loading situation with the ships going around. You're going to have to probably also make sure that you know what's going on when your cargo has just gotten off the ship. It's just a lot of back and forth that can be very, very complex at times. Next, you have a higher cost of expansion. Basically, all this means is since you are expanding to these new countries, it is obviously going to be a lot more expensive than what you were to have with a domestic business. Next is currency fluctuations, and all this means is pretty simple, is that though this is less sort of drastic, it's still something that happens a lot. It's basically when the currency conversion it like fluctuates from time to time. A dollar may not be worth the same as it may be in another country at another time, and it can sometimes get a little bit confusing. And these ups and downs happen because of supply and demand. And in global business, this matters because profits can rise or fall depending on how these exchange rate shifts. So next we're going to get into the advantages and disadvantages of domestic business. So for advantages, obviously we talked about this, lower operating costs, easier communication because everyone practically for the most part speaks the same language. And there's also a reduced risk because obviously you're not, you know, working outside your borders, so you have higher knowledge of sort of what's going on, and your business won't have to worry about foreign currency exchanges, international policy instability, or unfamiliar laws. So you will in turn be very familiar with your market. A disadvantage is there will be limited market size. You're only going to be able to use what you have in your country since you are not expanded globally. You also do have a higher risk from the local economy since if the economy goes down, your company will also go down in turn. You will also get slower brand growth because ultimately there will be just less people who know about your business than if it was a global business. So you will face slower brand growth. Lastly, a disadvantage is that you are going to have very intense local competition. Let's say you're located in Princeton downtown, for example. Your business is located in Princeton downtown. There's going to be so many other businesses competing against you that are right next to you. It's going to be so much more competitive. It's going to be a lot harder to gain customers. So that is definitely one huge disadvantage of domestic business. Lastly, I just sort of wanted to go over the supply chain for these businesses. So this is obviously a very rough picture of a supply chain. It looks a little different for global and domestic businesses, but this is sort of just like a rough sketch. So first, you have your raw materials that are then taken to the supplier, which are then taken to the manufacturer, which are then taken to the distributor, who then takes it to the retailer. And this is where consumers or customers like you and me would buy the items from the retailer. So the main thing, I'm pretty sure a lot of you already know about this cycle, but the main thing to take away from this picture is to understand that the moment an item is the journey an item goes from being a raw material take to the consumer is a complex and long process. It requires a lot of communication. A lot of people need to know what they're doing for this to all go well, even if it's a global business or domestic business. So that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed it.